Hey, what's up, guys? It is METAGAMESGX here, and we are going to be going over the top 10 best decks post-Suda format. I've been going through all the lists that have been topping in the OCG and just meta trends, talking to top players, and compiled this list, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be pretty definitive. I've also taken opinions from, like, Triff and stuff like that from his Twitter posts, and also just done testing myself in anticipation for YCS Orlando, so if you want to see more discussion videos like that, please leave a like and comment down below what you thought of the video and your favorite deck. So let's get into it. The first deck on my list is going to be the tried and true kashtira Fiend Smith. I would also say any generic Fiend Smith variant will really cover this. So you'll also see like Fiend Smith Magical Musketeer, which actually the Fiend Smith engine gets a lot of support in Suda for more of these like pure Fiend Smith builds. So I think overall these builds end up actually still staying pretty relevant, and we'll still be able to snag some tops post Suda format. This build in particular doesn't have the new support, but for instance, Engraver gets new support, and you get basically a new towers-like monster. So I still think with the power of the Kashtira cards that this deck will still be something to be contended with, and then also the new Magical Musketeer cards get really a lot of new combo lines with the new Fiendsmith cards, so definitely try out those decks. Next, I have Atlantean Mermail, because this deck gets new support in Supreme Darkness in the form of a new rank 7 Xyz and a new main deck board breaker starter, which is really good. So this should put the deck into actually a really nice position in the meta, with Toad being legal. Of course, in the OCG, Toad is not legal, so the deck doesn't do a whole lot, but even when the new support came out, the deck started to do some stuff. So I think that overall, it should have a positive impact on Mermail, and Mermail should still be a top 10 contender post-Suda format with the new support, being able to hand rip for 3 and sub boards of multiple Omni negates through Totally Awesome, and then hand ripping with Mooling Glacia is still very broken, and then now with the new board breaking capabilities in engine, it really does help the deck. Next, you have White Forest Alzemina. So basically, White Forest is getting a lot of new support in the new in Supreme Darkness in the form of Alzemina, the White Force, which kind of brings both archetypes together, and you get to also, if you want, run the Fiendsmith variant, so with the cards, so it ends up making like some really ridiculous end boards on top of Desiree with an Omni Negate with Sylvia, and then also just your White Forest interaction, and the new Aboku, which is just like a free revive for any light or dark, so you just consistently have a way to keep extending on you and your opponent's turn. So very broken card on top of just like the broken Fiendsmith engine, and this is the OCG version, so like you could have 3 Engraver over here until a ban list drops, obviously. So I think this will be one of the new best decks, honestly. A lot of people won't exactly know what this deck does. It does turbo out some like Saint Alzemina, some really broken stuff, so I do recommend checking this out if you want something different. You could also run this without Fiendsmith. You don't really need it. It's just the Alzemina stuff is very good now with the White Forest, and is probably the best new White Forest variant in the game, so I highly recommend checking out, this kind of thing. You can also run Diabolize because it is an illusion. You're able to search it out through the White Forest card, so it's very cool, very spicy. Next you have next you have Next, you have Memento, which Memento is a very good option in the OCG right now. It's actually just consistently been like the 3rd to 4th best deck in the whole format. However, I think there's a lot of things stopping it in the TCG, but it still ends up being a decent deck overall, and I think that will still be a decent meta call. For people, obviously, you get to run a lot this nice fusion engine to go into Guardian Chimera and then SP Little Knight, and you can even run things like Ultimate Slayer because the aggregator, just a lot of extra deck space. Very consistent engine that allows you to just extend really just through its engine. You could run it with board breakers or hand traps, as you see here, so I think that overall this will remain being a pretty good option going into the meta. Next, you have Chron. Chron's get actually some really, really nice support in Suda in the form of their new Halka Fibrax and Chron Tristalos, and it essentially means that a lot of your cards end up just doing ridiculous things now. It has a few different lines, especially with Citri, that allow you to play through 3 hand traps, so this will be one of the new best decks, I think, of the format. I think the issue is that this deck falls short to Lancia really hard, and then also it gets hit by Droll really hard, which Droll isn't really a card that's being run in the current format. However, I think it is starting to pick up steam with post Suda, so I think that's something to consider. You can run Tidal 2 as an extender since they're all waters, which is really cool. You also have just like already a lot of really good Chron support. You get to run hand traps and board breakers. It's a very good engine that can also play through multiple hand traps, as I mentioned. And it really does kind of get hit by things that it has to resolve in the graveyard. It has to like banish cards to basically do stuff. So, but it can really, like I said, play through a lot. So it's definitely one of those decks you want to pick up and, you know, be ready for at the very least at like YCS or anything like that. All right, next we have Malice, because Malice is still going to be one of the best decks. I would say overall there are a few different Malice variants. There's obviously like the standard Malice, just running some hand traps essentially. Then there's Fiend Smith Malice, and that which runs the Fiend Smith package to play through Lancia. So if you get Lancia, you can still basically do your Fiend Smith combo. And then you also have the Sky Striker Malice package. I think that the Sky Striker Malice is currently the best deck, or the best version of Malice. So, but I think post Suda, the best version of Malice is something with hand traps, because of the fact that you're going to have a lot of these just like FTK, pseudo FTK decks. And what I mean by pseudo FTK is just a deck you don't want to lose die roll against. Like Chron, if you lose die roll, you're going to have a really bad time if you aren't running hand traps kind of thing. So, and on top of that, same with like Ryzeal, because Ryzeal is going to be hand ripping too. So it's one of those things that you're going to want to have hand traps. So I think this is like the build overall you want to run. Also maybe considering more Bystials. And stuff like that. Thrust is something that obviously this deck can do, and it's one of those really powerful link decks now that can really just bust up into an access code like nothing and OTK out of nowhere, or just set up a really nice onboard with Neo Tempest Terahertz with, you know, things like the Heart Cryptor, which is a quick play banish, which is really good, and also you can use Shifter in this deck, which is always great. So, you know, it's very resilient too, depending. It's kind of hard to hand trap, but it can get kind of slammed by like 2 hand traps if you hit them perfectly though. So if you just know where to hit them, it's one of those decks you really shouldn't have too much of an issue against, but it definitely catches up a lot of people off guard. And also one of those decks that like you can actually like do, you know, express a lot of skill with. And next we have Fiend Smith Bystial Tenpai. So you thought Tenpai might have died? Nope. So this deck basically, I think Triff basically like piloted it or really showed people it off. And it's the new way to play Tenpai. It makes Tenpai basically a very runnable engine that you can still go first or going second now. And you use the Fiend Smith bodies to basically make a very nice end board, and then also help you basically go into your Tenpai synchro. So the Tenpai engine is also just like, it gets you bunch of bodies on board, so that helps you get into the Fiend Smith engine alone. You can still run Promethean Princess 2, which is just a broken card, and you get to run things like Caesar and then Desiree. So it's just one of those really decks that came out of nowhere that you're going to want to be prepared for, and is just definitively going to be one of the best decks, I think, post Suda. I'd say it's going to be the best non-Ryzeal deck by far. I think just having the ability to go to the Tenpai engine and get really quick OTK, or just set up a really good end board of like Seals plus Fiend Smith engine plus like kashtira and Bystials with hand traps. It's really crazy. Like this deck does a lot. And on top of it, just like the broken Fiend Smith engine, as long as you can Engravers at 3, this deck's going to be great. And now we're going to talk about the Ryzeal variants, because obviously I think Ryzeal is still going to be the best deck. It gets now even more broken support in the form of Moon of the Twin Eclipse, essentially, which this card allows you to just like loop rank 4s, whether it's Detonator or just like King of the Feral Imps. So it's very good, and I think that Bystial Fiend Smith Ryzeal will still be one of the best decks. You get to use Lubellion as a bridge into Regain, plus board breaking with Druiswarm. Like one Druiswarm really just can break a whole board sometimes, on top of an Exciton, which allows you to which leaves you like 4 cards in hand. So definitely is something that the deck is going to be very good. All the Bystials are still basically at 3 outside Magnemine, then all the Fiend Smith engine is completely untouched. So there's no reason why this deck shouldn't basically remain as one of the best decks. It's currently the best deck in the format. However, I think post-Suda, I think that arguably the other Ryzeal variants become a little better, because this one's extra deck is really tight and doesn't allow you to conform to the new support. However, you still get to run a Twin Eclipse, and then also the Fiend Smith engine, like I said, and Bystials are just broken. So maybe this could still be the best deck, honestly, but we'll see. You know, it doesn't lose to Lancia. It has a really good time into hand traps. You could run things like Cross Out, and it doesn't just die to D-Barrier, which is the nice part about this variant versus Pure, because you have the Bystials, you have the Fiend Smith, so if they go, you know, D barrier call exceed, you are just doing fine, and you can run things like Chaos Angel, SP, Typhon to help break boards on top of Exciton and Aggregator with an X Ryzeal. It's just a really, really good deck. On top of just all the hand traps that you get to run. And at number 2, I have Pure Ryzeal, because I think Pure Ryzeal is actually going to be one of the better variants. A lot of people haven't been believing in Pure Ryzeal lately, and it's been actually the least topping of the Ryzeal variants at the moment. However, I think you get to run now things like Twin Eclipse at 2 in your deck, and you basically just get to loop Detonator until the cows come home. So on top of just being able to run 21 non-engine, essentially, being able to go toe for with any other engine in the game, plus having some of the best 1-card starters in the game, board breaking capability, and the only thing really holding you back is the fact that you don't have the best grind game, and then also you can lose to Duo Drive and Perm, but obviously that's why you run Cross out, and then also you can lose to D Barrier out of nowhere, so that's something that you have to consider if people are going to be running D Barrier. But like I said, you get to run a lot of non-engine because of that. You get to even main things like Solemn Strike if you want. Soul Drain's very good right now, and I think it will continue to be pretty good into the new format. Solemn Judgment looking like a great pick, and then obviously you can side your Lancia, and then even the new Meowless for the Malice matchup. Also, you can consider things like Ally Justice Cycle Reader, since you can't really run Bystials in this variant you don't want to turn off X, so you really can run things like the Ally Justice to hit Fiend Smith even more than just like a DD Crow would. And then so I think that Pure is looking to be really good. It's one of those things where like a lot of people I feel like won't think Pure is very good, and then they will really underestimate the impact that Twin Eclipse has in this deck. So just really recommend trying out and not writing it off before you try out the other variants. And right here, I think we have the best deck of the format, just from what I've been seeing from Triff's gameplay and then all the other, top players who have been really trying out this deck. I think that, and for my own testing, obviously, as well, that I think that the Mitsurugi Ryzeal deck is possibly the best deck of the format. So Mitsurugi is the new TCG exclusive ritual reptile archetype, and you wouldn't think offhand that works with Ryzeal so well, but essentially all their extenders or their starters are 4s, and essentially what the engine allows your Ryzeal deck to do is hard punish Imperm on Ryzeal Duo Driver, which I just said is one of the biggest choke points for Ryzeal. So like if you're able to basically make your opponent go -2 on Imperming a Duo Drive, because the Mitsurugi cards allow you to play through that Imperm on Duo Drive, it's very good. Also, just having the layered interruption allows you to break boards very well. You're still allowed to run things like SP Little Knight also, and then you can also run things like Nadir and Triple Tactics Talents and more board breakers like Droplet, so you can run things like Entis to allow yourself to board break even better with the Nadir Servant and Extend, which a lot of people are just really underestimating. And because you don't get locked out or ritual summoned by Nadir, so you can still do your ritual and your Mitsurugi plays. You can do your Ryzeal plays, then go Nadir, and then start doing your Mitsurugi plays. It's very good. They synergize very well together. I'm still working on a perfect build. You also get to run Night Sword Serpent, because the Mitsurugi ritual card is basically a branded fusion. So you send from deck, so you can send the Night Sword Serpent from deck and just keep extending. But the most broken interaction with this deck, besides the fact the quick play is just utterly stupid, this card absolutely is one of the reasons why you run it with the Ryzeal deck, but also you have King of the Feral Imps, which can search out any of your Mitsurugi cards. It's a rank 4 generic, so essentially you can make it with any of your Ryzeal cards. You go into Duo Drive first, and then you can go into King of the Feral Imps, and then you can basically use Twin of the Eclipse to basically loop the King of the Feral Imps, and then you also Ryzeal plugin can revive the King of the Feral Imps and just put a material on it. So you're able to resolve King of the Feral Imps like 3 to 4 times. So it's very broken in that respect. And I would recommend checking out my spreadsheet if you want that. If you guys want to see a combo guide on this, make sure to leave this, get this video to 200 likes. I'll do a combo guide on Mitsurugi Ryzeal, but I also do have my spreadsheet, so check that out in my website, metagamesgx.com. We will be making some more on that. Go check out the spreadsheet and pick up a t-shirt. But yeah, guys, this will probably be the best variant. The only thing I worry about is that there's a lot of bricks with this variant. You do have to run like this trap, and these 4s aren't the best, and you have to run these rituals too. But overall, I think that the engine is so goddamn strong that I would highly recommend trying it. I think it's going to be one of those variants that you see definitely at like YCS Orlando for that instance. So if you guys want to see more videos like this, let me know down below. What was your favorite deck here, and did I miss anything? We will be seeing you guys later. MetaGamesGX signing out.